so glad you're able to join us today in this edition of Climb Beyond Limits, Successes Within, another Walking Bank Theory series. Today we're going to talk about mass layoffs and why being your own walking bank is a real job security. If you're listening to this, it is because 1, you are an economist. 2, you're already a walking bank theorist, and it's just yet another series or information for you to listen to. Or, unfortunately, you might be laid off, or you may have heard that your company is doing mass layoffs and you would like to know what happens next. What should you do if you're in that position? So let's jump into it. Here are some hard facts. We perhaps want to retool certain things about us with the workforce. Okay, so they'll tell you when you join, especially a massive company, they'll say, hey, this is your work family. There's this guy on TikTok, I really don't know his name, and he's constantly making fun of that ideology because he's like, family? Really? Do you really know what family means? And then I also saw a posting on a particular app that caters to professionals, and people were quite upset about the return to office remark or mandate or request that's being asked of some companies after what people have experienced during the pandemic, where they feel like they're balancing life and they're balancing, their personal life, and they're balancing it with their work life. And so there are people up in arms about it. And I'm thinking, you have a job to do. They have a job to do. They meaning the owners and the executives of this major company. And so if you were to retool your mind about what is truly happening, not what's branded, but what is truly happening, the Department of Labor, the federal department that handles the workforce issues in this country at large, it's called Department of Labor. Labor, that's what you're doing, labor. When economists speak about unemployment or the hiring rates, or they say labor supply, labor, you are working. You're working and you get paid to work. Now, of course, there's always an issue about how much you get paid, but that's for a different conversation. The conversation we're having here today is for you to be realistic about what's happening. And perhaps when you start to recognize these terminologies, then you start to face the situation that you're in. And I feel like that will make for a better work environment than the branding of saying this is your work family. And then people get upset when a massive corporation choose their profit margin over you and your livelihood and what you need to do for your family. So I think if we're a little bit more realistic, if we inventory the expectations, then perhaps that would lead to a better work environment with how we interact when we go to work, with people stepping up to the plate, doing what needs to be done. And of course, with the company, putting things in place to ensure that we have a safe, friendly, and wonderful environment while we're at work. In any event, the mass layoffs, that's taken a toll. We're hearing about it. In the reports on labor for August, they said that the unemployment rate was 4.2%. And this is at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They put out this information. Again, Bureau of Labor. Okay, I think you get my point. So, yes, you're working, all right? You want to have your work family in quotation mark, but you're working. Let's not forget that part. That's a modifier. Work family. Okay. Now, the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, they put out a working paper in 2002 assessing the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification, the WARN Act. And the WARN Act basically says if you have over 100 employees, then you're going to do this, any kind of layoffs. There are some triggers that will require you to report it. So the triggers in general, and I have to say in general because there are a few exceptions, it mandates that at least 60 days before this potential mass layoff or planned closing, notice must be given to the employees that this is about to happen. And if not, the company can be sued, and these employees would have to be given monies for the time that they were not notified, and so on. And there's a whole laundry list of things, but the broader issue is about the WARN Act, the WARN notices, and that even the Federal Reserve believes that there's some predictors in that if you're seeing a lot of WARN notices, then that can also, you can use that to extrapolate certain information as to what the economy is truly doing with respect to the labor force. The some of the things that will trigger the WARN Act is if a plant is closing permanently or some kind of indefinite shutdown, and that's going to result in loss of employment for 50 or more full-time workers, then a notice have to be given. They have to file that with the state. Mass layoffs, according to the WARN Act, occurs if one single site, right? So employment of a single site is reduced by 500 or more full-time workers. So one location, not necessarily the company at large, just for this particular one location. If 500 or more full-time workers, if it's reduced by that, WARN notice. You have to let them know. You have to give 60 days notice before you can let the folks go. If employment at a single site is reduced by 50 to 499 full-time workers, and these workers, so there's an and for this part, right? And these workers represent at least 1/3 of the employer's workforce, then that also trigger why the state would need to know that you are about to let people go, and it falls under mass employment. Then a third one would be, they say it's a temporary layoff, but somehow it becomes permanent, right? So they announce a temporary layoff. It lasts in less than 6 months, right? And then somehow it becomes permanent. So they have to give notice of that too. And that part is regardless of how many. So they still have to give notice for that one. All right. So here's some other things that falls into the WARN notice. And there's a reason why I'm telling you that, because I'm going to direct you to know what these are for your state, and it matters. So if there's an aggregate of layoffs, so within a 90-day period, right, if the combined amount of employment losses meets the threshold of that 500, or it meets the threshold of the planned closing, then the WARN notice has to be given as well. So, there's this other one where you need to be notified if you're laid off and this didn't happen and you fall into any of these categories, right? Reduction in work hours. If the hours of work for 50 or more individual employees are reduced by more than 50% each month over a 6-month period, WARN notice triggered. So I want you to know that the states can go above and beyond the 60-day period. And New York State, from what I've read, they require a 90-day notice to the employees. All right. So instead of 60-day notice, you have to give 90 days. And then if they don't, of course, then lawsuits will be filed, because these employees, they need to be paid. So some of the companies that I've been paying attention to that are laying off. And so we're in Q3 2024. All right. Northvolt, one of the largest suppliers, if you will, with battery power. This is in the EV space. They announced that they're laying off 25% of their workforce out of Sweden, and then 20% global workforce. So it appears for their global, it's an additional 20, but 25% definitely in Sweden. Then and they're saying it's some kind of cost cutting strategy that they're doing. So this is going to be about over 1,600 people total as of today that they will be letting go. All right. 1,000 of those jobs directly at this particular location. It seems like it's pronounced Skellefteå factory. All right. So I feel really bad for those people. It's, Christmas is almost here. Not that there's any good time to be laid off, but my. This is certainly one to watch. Now, Northvolts is important to watch because Volkswagen and BMW, they're stakeholders in this particular company. So this is definitely one to watch. Cisco, they're laying off 6,000 jobs, and that's in line for November. Then General Motors in their Kansas City location, they're planning to cut by November 1,695. Boeing has a hiring freeze. Oh, let's stop and talk about that. The hiring freeze, start paying attention. So they may not be cutting jobs, but they're not hiring. So for those that were laid off elsewhere, it still proves that it might be difficult for them to get reemployed as quickly as they would like. So that's happening. There's this other company, ASK Corporation, and they have a joint venture with the Japanese Nippon NSK, and they're laying off some folks also, and their reason for I guess it's economic. Then you have some smaller companies that people may not necessarily be paying attention to, that this one company called ACCO Brands. This is out of New York. They are letting go 226 employees out of 286. Like, come on, guys. This is happening. Boar's Head, they're letting go 600 people. And their reason for the closure, it also has to do with economics. This is just happening, and it's sad. So we got to have some solutions. All right. So we've talked about the WARN Act. We also have to have some solutions. So here are some resources I want you to use to help yourself. So USA Today, they actually have data on many things. I know, that's really good. On many things. So you could just Google this, USA Today data, and you'll see the laundry list of things that they have. And if you just put that in, you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see layoffs and closing. Or you could put USA Today data, layoffs and closing, and it's going to pop up. And I would like for you to start paying attention to the closings as they're occurring in your area, because you affect one part of the paradigm, you affect all. If there are many major companies, 100 employees or more, that are laying off or falling under the mass layoff, then that will be telling you something about the area in which you live, or the macro environment for where you are. And then, you go out from that, your environment will be micro to the rest of the United States. But everything is personal, right? Politics is personal, the economy is personal. So I want you to start paying attention to that. Basically, I'm trying to tell you, help yourself. Try to see what's going to happen before it happens. Don't worry. Don't sit there and worry. You plan. You don't panic. Okay? You plan. You don't panic. So Google the WARN notices. That's another way that you can do this. So I give you USA Today. You can just Google WARN notices. Just put WARN notices for, and you put the state. WARN notices for Wisconsin. WARN notices for Minnesota. WARN notices for Arizona. You get the point. And right at the top, the link will come for you to see what companies are filing this WARN notice, just in case for some reason you didn't hear at your company, so you can brace for that or start having conversations about what's happening with the company. The other thing that I want you to do, just period, start updating your resume. You should make this an annual thing. Just annually, just update your resume. Just update your resume. Just go ahead and get it done. It matters. One, chance favors a prepared mind. So might as well you just get it in just in case something happens. Or it might be within your company that a position opens up and they want an updated resume from you for you to compete for the position. So go ahead and get that done. I do have a resource for that actually on my AlisaMarieFit.com webpage, and I'm going to put that in the description below this audio. It's going to be listed there, where that document, it's the inventory your expectations. So inventory the expectation. That will help you with how to look at your job duties and so on. And it will help you with negotiation if you think out the box as to what exactly are you truly doing at work and what were you hired for. So you could do that as well. Now's the perfect time to do it. Then evaluating your talents. This is where the walking bank theory comes in, right? Because we say that you should monetize your talents. So evaluate your talents beyond your day job or your career path. So we know what you went to school for. We know what you got up one day and said, I want to be, culinary artist, i.e. a chef, right? We know this. And that's what you went for. You studied for it. You have the skills for it. But there are other things that you do that you probably could be monetizing. So I'll give you one famous example. Did you know that the author E.L. James that wrote 50 Shades of Grey, she wrote it on her BlackBerry. Yeah, I know some people don't know what that is, but it's a fun from way back. She wrote it on her cell phone on her way to work, commuting to work on the train. So, and voila, 95 million pounds later, it paid off. So sometimes you just have to look to see what it is that interests you beyond what you went to school for, what it is your job is currently, and evaluate those things and then monetize it. And that's where the walking bank theory doctrine comes in. It explains it to you, or you just go to walkingbanktheory.com and you're able to make a connection. Contact us will help you with that. So that's also going to be in the description to help you as a resource. Now, here's this other thing that I would like for you to do. Place a Google alert on the company you currently work for. Yeah, you actually just go Google alert and put in the company. Real easy. And this way you're able to see all the news that's happening with this company. And of course, this is for companies that are large, that are putting out press releases and so on, or for some reason they're in the news. But it will give you the temperature. And you don't have to be highly educated to do this. It's news. So why don't you just go seek it as opposed to having it slap you in the face, right? Chance favors a prepared mind. Remember, that's one of my favorite mottos, okay? Then here's what I want you to do as well. If you have been laid off, so this part is if you've been laid off, because if you have not been laid off, everything that's being stated here is very academic. This entire conversation that we're having is very academic, and you have to balance that with what you're doing at work, what the rules are, and so on. However, because you might have a non-compete, or there might be some issues with you moonlighting. So you figure that out for yourself. However, if you have been laid off, okay, then you need to find yourself on some form of gig economy website such as Fiverr, Fiverr, and Upworks to help bring some revenue in until you find your next full-time employment. Do not panic. Plan. Do not panic. You plan. So we cannot cover everything in this Climb Beyond Limits episodes, but the resources will be there to help you navigate. And of course, I'm asking you, if you're listening to this and you have additional resources, just comment on this video. Do not, or this audio, whichever way you're listening to it, do not forget to share, like, comment, let people know about this resource. We all will need to share information because information is an asset. And I believe that you were born with talents that you can monetize. I believe that. I know that. Why? Because I started this conversation stating that they refer to the work that we do as labor but they also will use a word that they're looking for talent, the talent acquisition department. They're looking for talent. So there's so much to unpack here. Oh my God, there's so much. And we will always have more and more and more to talk about in the next edition of Climb Beyond Limits, Successes Within. I am Alicia Marie Fid. I look forward to talking with you again and reading your comments. And also look at the bottom of the descriptions. You will see my socials on Instagram, Alicia Fid, on Twitter, now X. That goes by my last name, PHIDD. So stay connected. Start inventorying your talents. If you need help with it, make sure you go to walkingbanktheory.com and reach out, or just put a message in the comments. Talk with you soon. No, that's not what I say. Roar with you soon.